Welcome back, everyone, to the LJL officially unofficial. My name is Canafit, joined by Mars Swan. It's early here in the UK. Mars Swan, how, on a scale of 1 to awake, how are you doing?
Coffee.
That's the only word that needs to be said as coffee right there. So we're coming into day 2 of the Academy League. So, of course, as we mentioned yesterday, we're going to be going through several days of play. So we had 6 games yesterday, 6 more games today, 6 games tomorrow, then 1 more day in a row on Thursday to get us up to 24 games, and coming back on Monday or the following week, the 6th of September, for 4 more games to finish out the main stage before going on to the tournament stage on the 8th and 9th of September, with the finals being on the Thursday. So, Swan, we've had a lot of games. Obviously, there's a lot more games to go, but
Yeah.
kind of where have we landed so far with our day 1 results, at least?
Well, obviously the Hawks are reigning supreme at the top as the only 2-0 team. Yes, Hawks for life. And then we have Rascal Jester and DFM at the very bottom of the standings. There was a lot of takeaways really from this one. Go and watch my video if you want my fully in-depth thoughts on that. Quick plug there. But otherwise, honestly, DFM kind of struck me as the team with the highest volatility. They were really struggling around a lot of objectives, and controlling them was very difficult. They also, a lot of them were getting gapped in the laning phase, which is all coachable, which is really important. But I'm very excited to just keep watching the Hawks because they look like prospecting talents that we haven't seen. But I want to see the schedule if we can't. No, we can't. We're not allowed to. It's disallowed. I'm a
We got
heretic.
baited. We got baited there. But what we can do is we can give it to you guys verbally. So we're going to be seeing the Hawks returning as the only team with 2 wins out of day 1, up against V3 as our very first game. Then Sengoku against Burning Core for our second, and V3 versus Axis for our third. We'll then be switching across our casting duo for Crest Gaming Act versus Sengoku for the second time, then Rascal Jester versus DFM, and Axis versus Crest Gaming to end out the day. So should be a really good day of games.
Yeah, absolutely. And just looking towards this first game that we're coming into of Hawks versus V3 Esports. Obviously, these are 2 undefeated teams. I mean, Hawk V3 only playing 1 game, so it does kind of put a big, like little appendix next to it. But honestly, V3 Esports was kind of hyped to us when we were trying to get ready and prepared for it as like probably the team to watch. That this has got 2 players who have played a full split in LJL, now in Academy, training themselves up, getting things prepared. Unica and Yu-Gi-Oh definitely look like scary prospects. However, on the opposite side for the Hawks, Wasteland quietly was gapping a lot of players he was playing against yesterday.
Yeah, I really like what we're seeing from Wasteland there. I believe bringing out the Victor a couple of times, if memory serves correctly.
It was, yeah.
Doing some really nice stuff. I think it was in the second game for the Victor. They started to take a few more deaths because certainly against DFM, Wasteland was completely untouched, 3-0 and 8. In that second game, they started to take a lot more deaths against Rascal Jester. So it feels like there potentially could be a point that could be pressured for the Hawks, but still very impressive stuff so far.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Howlar and Charlie in the bot lane definitely had some crazy performances. Charlie with the hooks yesterday on Thresh was just chef's kiss over and over again. And Howlar had the highest DPM of any player in the first day of LGL scanning around. So, like, this bot lane is very much going to contest with Marble and Hatel, which is interesting because honestly, that was another part of the strong side of V3. Their bot lane was very resilient and very strong and really good at scaling up and playing team fights. So we're going to get kind of like bot laners, mid laners. That's where I'm worried for the Hawks, though. Look top side, I'm worried about Anko-chan and Ricky against Washide and Unica because I just feel like they're going to have an advantage there.
Oh, for sure. I mean, if we're talking stats, we've got some really exciting stats coming out of that one. Talked about how the biggest body count out of anybody in day 1 up against Marble, who had a perfect 8-0 and 8 game on Varus. This should be a crazy bottom lane. I mean, as well, you mentioned Anko-chan in the jungler. They had an incredible game of Viego yesterday, 7-0 and 6. And then they switched from carry style to completely different Jarvan supportive style and picked up 20 assists in the following game.
Oh, I mean, well, one, it is a little bit easier with Jarvan with the flag. You throw it down, it's a lot easier to get the assist with the attack speed buff that you give everyone. But I mean, absolutely, like there's two vastly different performances, and while some of the parts around him was similar, like the Victor was still in that top in the mid lane, Samira to Aphelios. I mean, they're two hyper carries. They play very differently, but it's important because these minor differences the Hawks actually adjusted for. It was so nice. So you don't even see some actual main roster LJL teams doing this much adjustment early on. So I mean, I'm hopeful. I don't want to see Lane Echo. Don't want to see too much of that, Ricky. I'm watching you. I'm watching you, buddy. Because Washide had an absurd cannon, and we do need to sing the praise of that cannon because it was the best cannon we saw out of day one, and we saw a few good ones with flanks. Washide had the best ones, and the team fights for these two teams are going to be explosive.
Yeah, I'm really hoping we get to see more of that kind of style because certainly yesterday, of course, we're in the Academy League, so the play is never going to be absolutely perfect. I think it was definitely a step above what we expected, but there's obviously still a few things to work on. Of course, there were some incidents yesterday with Rift Heralds that hopefully will be cleared up for day two. I think it was you pointed out yesterday that we will see these teams get dramatically better over just the course of these few days.
Oh, absolutely. Like, first off, live coaching, dynamic feedback coming straight away from games that actually matter, because it's sometimes very hard to distinguish between practice and actual games that matter. Even if you're scrimming the teams you're going to be playing in the tournament and everything else, it can be very hard to actually kind of get into the correct mindset. And sometimes it takes a day to actually get into that mindset. I'm definitely expecting players, teams, and rosters to just perform. And the other important thing is none of these teams are playing for they're playing for seeding here. They're not playing to make playoffs. So that's an important distinction between everything and the regular league.
All right, I do believe we've got our first game ready. So the Hawks against Sen Goku. Oh no, sorry, I do apologize. Yes, that was the previous schedule. I do apologize. Yes. It's V3 versus the Hawks. So two undefeated teams against one another. And oh no, Wasteland will have to bring out something different. That undefeated Victor has hit the bench.
Yeah, Wasteland getting hit, Aiko-chan, Howler as well, but that means Thresh is currently up for both of these support players. We're getting some more standard bans coming out from the side of the Hawks targeting Yu-Gi-Oh, because Yu-Gi-Oh is a very more standard player and he plays under Ace, so he's got that LeBlanc, he's got that Galio, and then Washide getting targeted for that Camille. And Camille was a champion that we didn't see a single pick or ban for, but all of these top laners are mains on, so I was very surprised not to see it. But the first pick of Aphelios was locked in, partly a takeaway from Howler.
Yeah, I mean that was the pick that Howler got those 11 kills on before. So definitely a good takeaway there as Leona comes in. That's another champion along with Lee Sin. Now the Hawks are really picking for stats here.
Absolutely, but not only that, we're actually getting some pretty strong picks here. I am surprised Charlie decided to go for Leona over the Thresh, because Thresh is just like B1 worthy at the moment, like first rotation, high priority and competitive play. So I am a little bit sad that we went in that direction, but who's great against Thresh? Well, Leona is. Lee Sin's phenomenal. Patel is going a little bit different. He is picking into this Braum, which kind of incentivized that that the side of the Hawks, or V3 rather, are expecting the Hawks to go for a poke comp. This is partly why the virus is still up, and yet it hasn't been picked.
Okay, yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, anti-poke. This is anti-poke if you've ever seen one. They want to do front to back with Marble basically playing red blue gun.
That can work incredibly well. The virus is still being considered here by the Hawks. Ooh. It's going to get locked in. The gauntlet being thrown down. Two undefeated teams, both are going to play exactly the way that they want to play.
Oh, but this plays right into what V3 want. They wanted you to pick that. Oh, I wonder how much Howler relies on that Samira and Aphelios. We're going to get to see it because remember we saw an amazing performance from Marble yesterday on that Varus going 8-0 and 8 as you mentioned earlier. So highly important. But now we have junglers and bot lanes focused. In the first rotation, it's all going to be about these mid laners and top laners. Cassiopeia, first one gone.
Yeah, as we mentioned before, Wasteland, a huge source of strength for the Hawks lineup. For Yu-Gi-Oh!
What? Oh, Lane Lilia.
I mean, it could happen, you never know.
It's real.
The Syndra getting taken out as well, so yeah, absolutely. Definitely getting very heavy focus towards that mid lane. Presumably, we don't see the Hawks take it fourth pick.
Well, there's a cannon as well as as I did mention. Obviously, Washi Day had an amazing cannon performance, so they're actually just too scared that Ricky could also do the exact same thing. So let's get that off. We're seeing this ended up turning into a far more standard pick and ban phase. V3 though, with their read, they're like, let's just get rid of their comfort champions, and if they play meta stuff, we get practice against that. Whereas on the opposite side of the Hawks decided to take a different direction. We're getting a Rise, which is kind of incentivizing. We're going to be playing something very up and close in the top lane slot for the Hawks.
Yeah, that's really interesting, because that Rise pick yesterday, yeah, we had a very good day and a very bad day up against the Yasuo pick on the opposing team. So I'm fascinated to see what comes out here from V3 in response. So we will be seeing the Gnar up in the top lane, but we've got to see what the response will be. So blind pick Gnar, and response picks the Rise in the mid lane.
That's the LeBlanc counter. You only picked that because you play LeBlanc. Lissandra is only for LeBlancs. Okay, well, Yu-Gi-Oh just wants to try and have a very strong performance on this, but this is versus Wasteland. Wasteland looked impenetrable on this Victor, so good that V3B first banned it. So we're gonna have to see how the Rise faces up versus that. For the side of the Hawks now, Ricky is hovering for himself this Aatrox, but it's going to be a Renekton. Makes 10 times more sense, meaning that's the AD that I was talking about for the up and close and everything. I actually don't mind where we've got Hawks' draft here. I actually think both these drafts are actually pretty solid. I favor Hawks very slightly, but I mean, with nameplates back on, V3 look very strong, so this should definitely be an exciting one, can it?
All right, so let's talk about what teams are going for. You noticed before that the Hawks seem to be going towards more of a poke kind of style. They picked up the Varus in the face of everything that V3 were doing. Now we've got the full lineups of both teams. How do you feel like their overall strategies developed during the draft?
Well, Hawks actually had a defined strategy. Well, it felt like they had an idea of a defined strategy, and they had to pivot a little bit because guess what? There were certain champions which were picked by V3, which were very anti-poke. They still have that poke kind of put in, but with Rise, with Renekton, you can play both one and the other. They're very flexible as opposed to V3, who just want to play team fights. Like, they are only interested in team fights, which does give the Hawks a slight favor because they have a Rise. They can do a split push.
I'm fascinated to see what Wasteland does here. Again, we are in the situation, for everyone who's tuning in here in the Academy League, where we're looking for standout players. Certainly, we were expecting big things out of this bottom lane from Marble and from Howler, both of them yesterday pulling off truly eye-opening performances. Now they're up against each other. I mean, Master, are you leaning one way or the other between Marble and Howler?
I mean, it's very hard to kind of not want to side with the player that went 8-0 and 8 in a performance that I was kind of being told to expect. Like, this guy might be the next Yutori Muashi, and like, that's a very big name to be comparing them to because he's kind of the grand master of League of Legends in Japan when it comes to an AD carry role. The only man that held a candle and arguably kind of had a bigger candle is Utapon. think everybody knows Utapon that follows competitive League of Legends, so that potentially could be the level we're dealing with here. Though obviously this is the very early days, so we actually get to watch this prospecting talent day one of kind of them debuting, and then in a year or two from now, kind of we could be talking about them like they're kind of the new thing, like they're Aria, which could be incredible that one of these players could be like that. I'm siding with the Hawks, but V3 look incredibly scary.
Yeah, I mean, just to touch on what you're saying there, in particular, Axis, the current Axis, sourcing so much of their roster from the scouting grounds,
Right?
kind of the previous iteration of what LJL Academy is now. So you're right, absolutely, it could be a very, very short road, just depending on these individual performances here. I mean, even as you said, while none of these games will keep the teams from getting into the playoffs themselves, if you end up 7th or 8th seed, you will then go up against the 1st and 2nd seed, effectively making you kind of have a very, very short playoff run, which would only even be best of one.
Exactly right. It's a best of one, and if the team you're playing up against is the top team that has probably gone undefeated, or at least in that kind of realm, it could be very tough. I'm interested to see if any of these teams will go undefeated. They only play 7 games, remember counterfeit, because it is a single round robin, because of the sheer amount of games that they're compacting into basically one day. So I'm interested. I'm hopeful.
All right, guys, I think we are ready to get into our very first game of day 2. It's 2 undefeated teams against each other, V3 and the Hawks for life. Going at 1v1. Only one of these teams walks out of this one undefeated. We have 2 titanic AD carries, both looking to make their names at the expense of the other.
You couldn't help yourself with that, could you, mate?
I can't. I'm gonna try and hold off on doing it every time, because otherwise it's gonna happen way too much. But certainly the Hawks have won my hearts, all 3 of them, and hopefully they'll win yours as well.
All 3 of them. Interesting. Okay, good. So I'll remember that for the future. We'll remember that one. Interesting runes to be looking at. Marble has gone for press the attack, which is kind of unique on Aphelios. Almost always you go for Conquerors. So this is going to be kind of going in a very different direction. Grasp as well for this Gnar. I mean, you take Grasp anyway, so that's standard. Electrocute, yeah, all of this other stuff seems fine except for Marble with this rune choice. I'm interested to try and figure out why they've done that, but we'll figure it out over the next few minutes or so.
So to throw some more fuel onto the fire between Marble and Haller, so both of them had very impressive performances yesterday. You noted that Marble was 8-0 and 8, so they managed not just to get a ton of kills, but to play very, very clean. Haller was kind of the other end of that kind of spectrum there, in that while they got the most kills, they also died a few times as well. So it feels like that should be an interesting kind of combination together of both players able to put together a ton of kills, but Howler just doing it in a much more high-risk way.
Absolutely, and I've completely figured out why they've gone. It's not lethal tempo. No, it's not press the attack. It's lethal tempo that they've gone for, and I was trying to figure out why they've done that. It's because it allows you to almost proc Braum passive far more effectively and quickly in a laning phase, because after dealing damage to a champion, you gain like a bunch of attack speed for a very short a few seconds, like 3 to 6 seconds. So this is completely just due to the fact that they want to exceed the attack speed limiter and actually be able to proc the passive very quickly and hopefully get at that kill, especially with a gank from Unica that almost guarantees it. So it's going to be important to watch Howler specifically, because that's going to be the one they're going to be trying to get that Braum passive procced on really early. But I think we'll have to wait till 6, so we've got a bit of time.
Yeah, right now at least the Hawks are able to get a decent amount of pressure down in the bottom lane, though not a lot of damage onto the tower itself. So Marvel just happily farming up there for the time being. Of course, we're keeping our eye out for Anko-chan, noted before, with some very impressive performance coming into this game. We'd certainly be expecting to see big things out of this Lee Sin pick that suddenly got a lot of traction in day 1.
Oh, for sure. I mean, this is a player who played a support role, a carry role, and now they're playing Lee Sin. Like, that is kind of the trinity, right? You have to play support, you have to play carry, and you have to play a Lee Sin if a jungler. It's the holy trinity, right? Because Lee Sin can do both of those roles. So it's going to be important to see how this player does do of Anko-chan, but so far, quiet at the moment. Both these junglers are just completing their full clears. They're in bot side. I don't imagine we're going to be seeing any ganks. Sadly, neither of them path top side, where actually probably something could have happened. I don't think there's a realistic chance that a gank could happen. But look at that. He's just able to get a few taps on to Howler just so quickly, Marble, with that. Press the no, not press the attack. It's lethal tempo, Lexi. Jeez, get it correct.
I noticed the I was a little thrown there because one of the sniper rifle, Calibrum, I believe, for Aphelios has a very similar icon to press attack, and Unica is there, so you can see that the Hawks are trying to play more aggressively because they're expecting a gank to come for them, but instead they are the ones being ganked themselves. Howler being chased down, the stun comes through, TP comes up too late to save the Hawks bottom laner, but they could see a turn here as everybody that's piling into the bottom lane. It's a bloodbath. Ankakan locks down the return kill. I think that's going to be it for this fight. Gosh, these teams don't hold back.
Yeah, absolutely. But while this is all happening in the side of the Hawks, Ricky did TP back down, as did Wasteland. Washide's just being left at the moment. He was already up an advantage. They had a wave crashing already, so there's a lot of experience Ricky is missing out on. They didn't really make up for it. Yes, he got an assist for it, but that's far more than what he really wanted. He's still in this bot lane. They had to send Howler to this top lane, who died early on, and now he's going to collect this. Ricky's going to be put very far behind, and there could be a very big concern that Washide might actually just be able to push a huge advantage if Unica plays through that. Unica got that first blood for them in that bot lane. Let's see if they can up the tempo, or if the Hawks can distill it down to a little bit differently as we come into this replay, and this all just starts off with a few flashes being blown immediately. Howler was instantly just accepting that, hey, I need to just flash, heal, get out of this. Even with everything, it still didn't work out for them. Now, there was a 5-man commit here from the side of the Hawks after losing their AD carry, which kind of raises the big question of, I get one TP from your mid laner, for instance, to kind of discern and deter the rest of them from coming in at you. Using both of them and getting a kill that you're probably already going to get, that's less net EV. So ultimately, I think it overall came out as a win for the V3 because those TPs are still down and Washide still has his.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. For the Hawks, it's got to feel a little bit disappointing to put that many resources into the bottom lane and only just get the kill back. And it's not even, the first blood that going across to Unica there. So both junglers coming out of that initial fight with a kill, a bunch of assists, as well as Hawks are going to be playing pretty aggressively down the bottom side because, again, both teams' junglers are in this bottom part of the map. But again, it's Unica making the way to the play first of all. This could be a repeat performance.
Looks like it. I think Charlie's just, his positioning at the moment is making Hatel and Marble very worried because they're playing so aggressively at the moment. And that is part of the issue with this lane for the side of the Braum Aphelios, because you have that Varus poke. It just is so oppressive in lane. And if you're just getting, if your lane is just always constantly getting pushed into you and you actually want to be the one getting ganks and getting pushed, you need to collect your waves. This is something I was criticizing Ricky for when he teleported down. There's already a level disparity, by the way, between these two top laners. 20 CS. Yes, Gnar has an advantage in this matchup. Not to this extent, and not to this much. That teleport's still up, remember, and something scary could happen. There is a ward in this bot side for V3.
Yeah, very well invested control ward there. Unica will be spotted out on their way in. You're right, you're up in the top side, Ricky. You mentioned to draw even on levels, but in terms of summoners, V3 have got the teleport advantage after that big teleport expenditure for the Hawks early on.
Yeah, and there was a turret plate, so that's 160 gold as well, also to Washide that Ricky just doesn't have. Like, that's just isn't there. However, now Agachan is actually able to find a really, really early invade onto them, knowing that, well, assuming Unica went for a buff star, went straight over to the blue buff, is going to try and steal this over and actually even hand it over to his mid laner, and is now going to go over. Wow, this is really big, actually, because this is going to affect the tempo, and Yu-Gi-Oh isn't going to have a blue buff, whereas a Rise, his enemy Rise, is going to have one. So V3 probably going to look to try and retrieve that back somehow. It might be at the expense of Wasteland, but we'll have to see how that goes because Hatel is getting collapsed on.
Yeah, the Hawks collapsing in. Nice run up there. Actually going to be a fake out because the fight is still going on. Unica grabs hold of that first kill. It's going south for the Hawks very quickly now as they drop 3 kills with no response whatsoever. What a disaster for the Hawks. V3 are able to go right back onto the Herald and enjoy that as dessert.
And it was actually the Hawks that decided they wanted to go for it at that moment in time. However, what I spoke about in pick and ban phase, that this team is anti-poke, well, it's a little hard when your Lee Sin needs to land a Q in, and it hurts when you've got a Ryze who wants to be machine gunning. You've got a Varus who's level 5 and against Aphelios who's level 6. Look at this, the Braum shield just goes up, Xin Zhao ultimate goes down. They're not taking damage. Like, this whole time they're not taking damage, even though the Hawks were trying to do damage onto them. Aphelios Hawk comes out, tries to find it, but we get the Wasteland flash out. Howler has got his flash up, but had to use the heal at the very beginning of that. V3 just keep pushing this, and what I mentioned in pick and ban phase that the Hawks might play into if V3 get their way is exactly this. Aphelios also has this Rift Herald, so I wouldn't be too surprised if Marble, yeah, he's going to pop this down. And what I love about this is Unica not taking this. They are funneling all the gold they can into Marble because he didn't get any of those kills. And guess who did get the kills? Unica. This is such smart play and so defensive, but oh my god.
Nice play down the bottom side. Watch they getting pulled in, but yeah, I think we're starting to maybe see why Marble ended up 8-0-8 in their previous game. If they're getting this much of the gold, the Herald will get stopped. No, it won't get stopped. Oh my gosh, what a mistake there for Ricky, missing out. That's a ton of damage onto the top tier 2 tower, and if that gets taken down as well, that's a ton more gold in for V3.
If I was on stage, like if they're in the actual LJL theater, which I don't think they are, I would have called for a pause there. That felt weird. That was a weird Rift Herald. That felt like it should have gone down. I'm guessing just the range. Ricky wasn't far enough in the range, and Shelly had already decided that she wanted to hit. But normally you get the opportunity, and he did hit the eye. I'm very, very confused what happened there. But hey, Shelly wanted to give V3 an extra hit. Maybe that's just because it was given over to the AD carry, like it probably should have been. But Unica, you're pretty deep here, buddy.
Managing to avoid most of the solar flare, but the follow-up is good from the Hawks. Again, the Crescent Guard comes down, which denied so much of the Hawks' offensive push before. Ricky TPing in, Unica being pursued through the jungle, forced to flash away. So at least for the Hawks, they get the summoner advantage, but not the kill they were looking for.
Yeah, they don't though counterfeit because Ricky had to use his TP for that. That's a 5-minute timer that Washide is just getting back again. He's halfway through with it. I would argue this is still an advantage over to the side of V3 because if someone like Ricky doesn't have that, how is he going to get flanks in the next big team fight when Dragons, when Rift Herald number 2 is going to be on the table in the next 5 minutes? And Unica, he's going for a gank. He has been seen on this vision, so that's why the Hawks are rallying off.
Yeah, I mean, I'm liking what we're seeing from V3 so far. They've really known where and when to deploy their resources. So, you know, really dogpiling the top lane tower, now bringing enough to bear on the bottom side to get some decent damage in as well. They must, you know, so they've collected the entirety of one set of plates. I think they might be just about close, at least, to picking up the next one. They've got another minute and a half to get the most as possible to V3 out of this early laning phase. Anko Chan may be in trouble here. Forced to flash away very early on, respecting the power of Yu-Gi-Oh! To lock them down.
Absolutely, that Lissandra ultimate would have just been the death of them, especially with Hatel being there with Unica as well. It's so easy to just get the chain CC from the Thaliordian duo of Lissandra and Braum. It can just be very difficult to do that. Remember, if Marble gets anywhere near, they've got the lethal tempo, so they can very quickly proc it. They've got Washide around, so hey, if he's anywhere near any of these team fights, it's gonna be procced really early. Braum with this team, very good at enabling this. It's why we saw that first team fight go so well for them as well. It's because, hey, they're anti-poke, they've got the shield, they've got the Xin Zhao ultimate, and they're good at proccing the Braum passive on multiple members of this team. And if anyone looks like they're about to go down, well, Yu-Gi-Oh! Has the panic button to just throw it. Stopwatches are going to come out for this team probably pretty early on just to keep their oppressive nature and the ability to that the Hawks are going to try and collapse and use a lot of abilities, because that's what we've seen. The Hawks keep trying to use as many abilities as they can, fight as much as they can, and it just hasn't worked out these last few times. Dragon, though, coming up in 1 minute is probably going to be something that the Hawks are ideally looking to try and get, because stacking dragons is definitely going to be a win condition even if you fall far behind. However, 3k behind at 13 minutes is not the place they are probably wanting to be, especially for a team that went 2-0 in day number 1.
Yeah, certainly coming in with high expectations for the Hawks don't seem to be lining up to the reality on display here in day number 2. But let's talk about some of what V3 are going to do. You're elaborating on, for V3, they're able to kind of say no to a lot of the offensive push that the Hawks are putting out here, which works so well for them in day number 1. Does this disengaged style of V3 still hold up around objectives where there's less of a place to fall back to?
Oh, I mean, frankly, yeah, it really works out rather well, because they are prepared to do a 5v5, and they would actually much rather always do 5v5s, 4v4s, flat numbers. Whereas the side of the Hawks, they would actually probably rather do something where they do a 5v5, but they want to get a flank with Ricky. They want to be playing around, or they want Wasteland to just be AFK pushing on the side lanes. Washide, though, a little concerned that he might be getting collapsed on. Thankfully, that pink ward does see them. They do get that dragon. So we are going to find out which rift we're on. We're on an ocean rift. All right, well, extended team fights gonna be rewarded. Both these teams have pretty good front lines. They would always appreciate it. But the fact is, V3 are rotating around this map so well.
Yeah, we saw this work extremely well in day 1, maintaining a very strong objective focus. Washide is split off from the rest of the team, and they're going to be punished for it. But the V3 lineup is there in force, even losing a member. They've got 4 to the 3 remaining V3 members up on the top. Remwalk does not do too much of anything, but the Hawks are here to try and fight back over this Herald.
Stands on the side
with the follow-up in, waiting for that Crescent Guard, which makes it so hard to deal with them. Again, the Hawks will have to wait that one out as Marble locks down the kill. It's not looking good for the Hawks at all. Anko-chan is barely alive, managing to just scrape away, but Marble sneaks off at the top of the side, grabs a kill for themselves, Wasteland as well. V3 roll over the Hawks, and they can turn back to the objective.
Okay, let's be real there. Washide kind of ran it down a little bit. Let's call a spade a spade. He definitely was going very deep. He was playing and committing to the call, and I appreciate that. The problem is he was very deep without Mega actually being there. He was probably like an auto and a jump to actually get it. Problem is he wasn't allowed to have it, because you can just see where his rage bar. He's like, okay, I'm gonna go for it. The thing is, he's been seen, probably isn't expecting Wasteland to be there as well. Gets procced immediately, doesn't even have the opportunity to go Mega, get those bonus stats, which actually makes him go from the lowest base stat champion to the best. And he just gets procced immediately. However, V3 are just so good at doing this. They collapse on Ricky, immediately trade top for top. Now they're like, well, we win a 4v4. Like, we just always win this. Wasteland is just nowhere near them as well. They get Hatel down so early. Howla is running from the enemy AD carry with all those chakrams. God, imagine if Marble was able to do that. And Aiko-chan does get out, but then they trade Wasteland for it. And there's just so much. Realistically, V3 could have had a 4-0 after that team fight. The fact is, it was 4-1 worth every day till Sunday of your V3.
Oh boy. So, I mean, it's starting to seem like these team fights are looking more and more similar as time goes on. The Hawks try and dive in onto Unico or someone similar. They run out the clock while getting beaten down by the raw damage that Marble's able to put out, and then they get thrown back in disarray. I'm fascinated to see if the Hawks can find a different way to play these fights, because what they're doing right now has proven itself 2 or 3 times over not to be working.
The problem now for the Hawks is that their plan was actually probably not to deal with V3. They wanted to just stem the bleeding for as long as possible and then scale up, because they have got a Varus. They have got a Rise. Like, this is a spot where they can just be like, well, guys, they have an Aphelios, yes, but we also have a Varus. We can poke, we can clear this, we have a Rise, we can scale. It's gonna be okay. V3 aren't allowing them to do that. They're not allowing the Hawks to play a side lane game. Washide has honestly been playing the side lane game probably all game, because Ricky has been teleporting around, not getting much for his time, and then Washide is able to just capitalize on that. It's how they were able to get that first turret in top, because it was set up for Marble with that Rift Tower that we saw all the way back at minute 8. 10 minutes later, and you look at the scoreboard and it goes, well, that's a gold lead, that is 5k now. That is 6 more kills than the enemy. They've got a dragon. Ocean's coming up in a minute 20. Baron's also going to be up in a minute 20. V3 probably looking to capitalize, and Marble went from 0-0-2 assists up to 3 kills now. They're a lot stronger and they've gone for that collector. I would have liked a Lord Dominic, but I'm very happy with the direction that this AD carry is playing, because oh my, are they terrifying.
Yeah, I mean, certainly, you know, from what we've seen from Marble so far, they seem to be working very heavily on duplicating their performance from day one to, again, do more attention grabbing. It seems like V3, as a team, are more than happy to accommodate them in trying to make Marble's name here in the Academy League. Right now, the Hawks are learning to fear that name as Charlie walks right into V3, gets immediately deleted, and this is just short of this first Ocean Drake coming up. 20 seconds or so, and the Hawks, as much as they didn't want to fight before, they definitely don't want to fight now.
Oh, the thing is, with a Xin Zhao on a team, with a Braum, you've just got to be so scared, because if Braum gets a Q auto with Unica getting an auto reset, you could so easily auto Q reset. You can just be proc stunned so quickly. And Washide though wants Ricky.
And Ricky trying to hide out and buy time, but there's no help coming for the big old crocodile. Gonna lose their smile and drop to Unica ahead of this Drake being taken. The Herald's going down in the bottom lane as well. For the Hawks, I think they might have to go for this Baron, because everything else is going to hell.
They absolutely should, and they are absolutely going for it. My concern is, how quickly can the side of E3 respond? They have got TPs up. Let's see what they decide.
Baron down to half health. The Realm Warp will take them out of trouble. Nicely played by the Hawks, but they do deliver a half health Baron into the hands of V3, who have no interest in following up there. So a reset, a good attempt by the Hawks, but not one that pays off.
Yeah, it's something. They know that Dragon probably got stopped because they saw Unico actually show up in mid lane. So they're like, hey, we made sure they didn't do that. They are going to attempt to just try and clear the lanes, and they at least threatened Baron, so they found out if Vision was there or wasn't there. The Realm Warp also isn't on a super long cooldown, as you can already see on your screen. It's about 1/3 already done, so there's a good chance that realistically to the next opportunity that the Hawks would want to use it around, they can still do that. The only issue is if V3 ever find a good spot that they start bursting this Baron, if they find another pick, that's where you might wish you still had that Realm Warp, and you wish you still had it rather than not. Problem is, look at the ultimates. Look at the side of V3. Braum wants you to do a Realm Warp into him, because you know what's a beautiful setup? Oh, I know where I have to ulti into the little circle. You could, yeah, you know who also likes doing that? Aphelios. A circle for a circle. Realm Warp isn't great for tactile stuff. It's going to have to be all around location, and probably trying to find a spot on the side for the Hawks, on a member or two of V3 where they can find a pick and then hopefully collapse afterwards. If they don't, V3 might actually just run away with this game, but they're currently running away at the moment.
Well, let's take stock of where we are. 22 minutes in. We've got the V3 with a substantial goal lead with 4 Drakes, with 4 towers to their name and 2 Drakes so far. So they're looking incredibly strong. Unica and, of course, Marble being the main focus of attention. Though Washington, of course, doing some fantastic stuff on the Gnar as well. For the Hawks, you can see they're concerned about this Baron being started up here. Do you see a path for the Hawks to fight their way back in?
I mean, it involves definitely getting a kill or 2 on Howler. They need to find some picks, but the problem is they don't have control of this map at the moment, and they are just getting absolutely pushed around. Yu-Gi-Oh was playing the side lane game, and Charlie's getting collapsed.
Yeah, forced to flash away. That's going to be disappointing for the Hawks to lose out on the flash on the Leona. You see, the vision being cleared out by V3 around this Baron pit means the Hawks, they're going to be getting even more anxious as to figuring out what's going on now, knowing that they have to walk into completely unscouted territory to try and stop V3.
Yu-Gi-Oh is deciding to recall here, so potentially the side of V3 actually have a a few buys to do because we're also seeing Hatel go back. So it's going to be interesting to see where the direction of these two teams going. I just realized we've got a death note on Yu-Gi-Oh! So he's already got 5 signatures from the looks of things. So that might be another terrifying prospect if this if Yu-Gi-Oh! Just gets like 15, 20 plus stacks. Like, this could be a spot where Yu-Gi-Oh! Was also just a quiet third carry for this side if they need it. And he's just been playing side lane. He's not really been playing a huge amount with this team outside of a few of the picks that they've happened to get, because honestly, Hawks have decided that they wanted to go for a lot of these fights, and V3 have just kind of gone, sure, we win this. And they've done that twice, so gonna be interesting. I think we're probably well on track to a standard 30-minute game, which is how Academy's been going. The games have been longer. It's been 34-minute has been the average game time. Even a team like V3, it doesn't seem like they're able to kind of push the advantage, and we've been kind of in this laning weird phase for about 4 or 5 minutes now, Counterfeit.
Yeah, I mean, time is wearing on, and the lead of V3 hasn't grown exponentially. It feels like this Baron is going to be the catalyst for that to happen, as the Hawks try to feel out their way towards that Baron pit. V3 are jealously guarding that information blackout they've accrued so far. I mean, it's crazy to think the Hawks have only got 2 kills so far, as Charlie is going to get caught out again. There's the Fisher coming through and the follow-up. Nice kick away, but Unica still gets the kill locked down. TP coming in. Oh no, this could be a big mistake. Ricky puts themselves into the jaws of V3, and the Hawks, that TPs, they have been cursed this game as V3 pick apart the Hawks like they weren't even there, going between towers to get the triple kill for Marble. This is a showcase performance for V3.
Yu-Gi-Oh! Oh, we can't get it. Howler does get away with it. Yu-Gi-Oh! Sadly did perish with his life. He tanked an extra turret shot or 2. But hey, it's a well worth decision to get this Baron, and also to probably be looking to end this game in wildly confidence fashion, as they're now 8k up as we come into this replay. And this was all found partly through what I've mentioned with this Braum passive. I've mentioned it multiple times before, but this is a team that really does enable. Braum comes on, look how quickly, 2 passive proc done. This is where it goes, okay, this looks really good. Yu-Gi-Oh! Did get kicked out really early on, but then just pops the ultimate, walks off. Charlie, those TPs haven't been great. Does Yu-Gi-Oh! See, look here, he does get taken by a turret shot. I'm trying to figure out where he dies here. I think he just gets hit by it's just a Varus Q. That was a nice snipe. Nice snipe. But that's the saving grace for Hawks. They got a nice snipe. Everything else after that just was awful.
Well, I mean, it really feels like the big, for me, like, the big headline here for the Hawks style is that, it all seems like it comes from the early part of the game where they made those mass TP plays down the bottom side. I could definitely imagine a game where the Hawks, relying on their teleports, were able to pull off successful plays and get the snowball running, but instead, the teleports have turned sour for them nearly every single time.
Well, this is also where it comes back to my concern for the Hawks with their team comp, where I was just like, well, if you pick this Varus, you're kind of picking a Varus into a comp that has some built-in anti kind of what you want to do here. You've got the Braum, you've got the Braum shield, you've got the Xin Zhao ultimate. Lissandra's pretty good at going invulnerable with her ultimate, or making you go invulnerable, and you guess what, you're not a mobile AD carry, so if you get Lissandra ultimate, Howler's dead at that point. And then after that, it's like, well, Marble's always going to be on the front line. He's got multiple members protecting him, and he hasn't died once this game, and oh my god, Washi Day's just actually making Charlie's day awful.
Wow, that is a solo rundown kill without Ricky able to be doing anything about it at all. Yu-Gi-Oh! Picking up the tower in the top lane, 6 towers, 2-0. The Hawks definitely having their wings clipped in this first game of the day. Yeah, the split push, apparently V3 of the split push team, who's with the Baron buff, they are smashing down the bottom inhibitor tower. Mid is not looking too healthy either. It doesn't feel like the Hawks can do anything. Charlie is about to respawn, so they'll be back on numbers, but it does not feel like they can do anything to stop these inhibitors as well from dropping. 28 minutes in, V3 are looking amazing.
Yeah, truly phenomenal. They're just pushing. They were able to get both bot and mid turret with that inhibitor, and they're going to be forcing this one, and it's going to be pretty easy with just those barrened up minions. They don't even have to do anything. They can just pray away, what for it. But there's a Bromo.
There's the crowd control. The Gnar ultimate from Watch Day will be a little misjudged there. It's Wasteland able to get away from under the exhaust. It's still an incredibly strong Marble, though. There's the triple kill coming in. This is another incredible game for Marble. We wonder which one of these two will come out of this one with their legend, their burgeoning legend intact. And it's gonna be Marble. 8-0 and 8 before, 9-0 for this time. Marble making an impression.
Oh my, V3 Esports, you were pegged as one of the favorites when we were coming into this, and you've for sure delivered here. HAWKS V3 was definitely one of the matchups we were very excited for, because these were two teams that looked really good. HAWKS were a team we didn't really know too much about. V3 we knew a lot about, and yeah, V3 looked almost impenetrable, and I'm really impressed. I can't wait to see more.
Yeah, I mean, that's, honestly, I was really, really impressed, and especially going up against the only team in the HAWKS who were 2-0. I guess this kind of like brings up a larger idea here, which is it felt like the HAWKS were kind of trying to play a very specific style, but as you noted, V3, they had the tools in this game in day 2 to be able to deal with that style extremely well.
Yeah, they absolutely did. But not only that, they were able to identify that in the pick and ban phase, but then V3 executed on that idea. So really, really good job from the side of V3. Commiserations to the HAWKS, but there's still a lot to play for them, and just one loss isn't anything to fret about.
Well, we will be seeing V3 returning in just a couple of games' time when they'll going up against Axis, who themselves are undefeated. So that'll be another 2-0 team against a 1-0 team. But coming up, we have got Sengoku versus a Burning Core. That should be another incredible game as well. So do stick around. The officially unofficial broadcast will return in just a few short minutes' time.